hi, I diagrammed Goonergate. Let's have a look. So, you could say it started with a tushy. Not this particular one, but it was a certain character from a game called The First Descendant, wearing very little clothing. There was a clip of them doing a dance, and that was shared with the caption, "Is this what gamers want?" And of course, that did a lot of numbers. It was quite a good question, clearly. Let's diagram the most obvious answers we got. We got the yeses, the nos, and the maybes. Okay. Well, the people who said yes, they said nice tushies are fun games without an agenda. We've been fighting against the uglification of the video game characters. Now we have the tushies. We have the very nice sexy ladies still here in our games. So that is a gamer victory. That's what they're trying to say. But then there were people that said, no, this is not what gamers want. It should not be what they want. They thought that the people that said no, they said nice tushies. Well, yeah, it isn't just, oh, nice tushies equals no wokeness. No, 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 no. The wokeness may be gone, but now there is another equally perverted agenda in the gaming industry, and that is the Gooner agenda. Well, that's kind of what that's the name that everybody was given. So this is, yeah, sure, this is a victory for Gooners, but not for gamers. That's basically what the distinction came down to. There were some people that were just saying no off principle, that listen, it's a bit too sexual, yeah. But then, okay, as much as I don't want to focus on the individuals here, we did have Melanie Mack chiming in, and that brought the idea of Christian agenda into the fore, I suppose, into this discussion, because she was saying it's not Christian. And yeah, so the Melanie Mack of it all is actually what I feel, in my opinion, what made this blow up even more than it should have. Then we had the maybes. Okay, this is in the replies. We had the maybes. They didn't say maybe, but I saw some of them in the reply where they were saying, look, like the tush, great stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean the game's fun. Like, I need more from the game. So can you tell me more about The First Descendant? I'll go and play it, not just for the bum, but for whatever the game is. Let's talk about that. Is it also still good? Because eventually it's not going to be enough. No, but that was, you see, that was viewed as fence sitting, and you must pick a side, and gaming is just doomed. But that's Goonergate in a nutshell. Fine, it's a mini diagram. We can call this a mini map. But what I want to do is take it a little bit further, think about some principles around it, look at it through a different kind of lens, whatever. Let's see what we can do with it. So what I saw as the core issue that we were talking about here, in amongst all the reeing and whatever, was art versus agenda in gaming. So we have agendas that are affecting the quality of our art, and what is the future? We had the feeling of, oh no, it's the doom, it's the end. Let's have a little bit of a diagram to see how doomed we may be. So to start with, a great place to start with any discussion is, let's make sure that we understand what I'm talking about when I use certain words. Obviously, for the main concepts we're going to use in this mind map. So let's define art, agenda, and gaming, right? So art, you'll see I've put a little bit, a word there that says lens. This concept that I'm defining here is being used as a lens to observe something, right? But you can still define what it is. And to me, the way I define it is, it's a creation that combines skill and expression to create value, to create a piece. And that expression includes the creator's experience of creating. So just the actual sense of just creating something makes it valuable. It's imbued with that. Then we've got the creator's intent. So whatever that may be, that's also part of the value that's put into a piece of art. But then, for our purposes as well, the beholder's experience is very important. It's what makes art more than just a personal expression. And of course, in the context of this discussion, it's what makes gaming an entertainment art as well. So just remember that. That's what I'm talking about when I say art. And another lens we could talk about, or tool, maybe I should have said, another tool that we're using is the idea of agenda, which is just the intentions behind the actions of a group. That's what I'm basically talking about. An action, a group of people that have like mind, they take actions in order to push certain values, to enforce certain rules, and to determine a certain sense of normality that everybody's supposed to live by. So that's what is behind an agenda. I don't think this is anything new to anyone. Equally so, gaming, which is the subject I've put there. Gaming is, it's gaming, it's creating in games. But for this discussion, we're talking about creators of games and we're talking about consumers of games. So that relates back to that art thing, where it's the beholder of the art piece that is also involved in the value of the art piece. So there's our definitions, and let's move on. Another way we can gain insight, and that's what I like, what I'm doing with the mind map, is trying to gain insight into a subject. One way we can gain insight to something, to anything, is to compare it to other things. So what I've done is made a comparison with something that has the same elements involved. An example that involves gaming, art, and an agenda. And what came to mind was Satanic Panic. It was around the 80s, 90s. I only experienced a little bit of it in the beginning of the 2000s. But it was a time where music, board games, and literature, everything was coming under fire from the Christian agenda, because it was all seen as dangerous to your soul. D&D, particularly, especially in the 80s and 90s, playing D&D, so there's our gaming, that was a big problem. Metal music, and for me, my experience was, we actually had some concerned parents in the Catholic school saying Harry Potter was a problem because it was encouraging witchcraft. The Christian agenda was a very big, loud thing in the past, and it was seeing everything that isn't Christian as harmful. It looks at the Bible as its blueprint, and it looks at the world and sees that that's not the same thing, so it criticizes. So there you can see the art, the agenda, and yeah, the gaming is in there with the D&D. So if we look at the Goonergate discourse now, well, we have art. Very, very easy here. Video games equals the art that we're talking about in this situation. The agenda that we're talking about here and that we always interact with is wokeness. And that uses DEI as its blueprint. Then we have Goonerism, which was identified allegedly in that, if you go to our mini map, that's what was brought up as an agenda. And I suppose what we would say, if that's an agenda, fan services is the blueprint that they're using. And then we had Christianity from the Melanie Mac. Remember, we're not talking about the individuals, but this is the factor that brought it to light. We had Christianity again as the agenda. So similarities, where the Bible is the blueprint. You'll see I've got a bold red line around the wokeness agenda. That's because it is present in gaming creation and gaming discourse. It just is undeniable. I'm a filthy casual and I know that, okay? But then you see there's dotted lines for the Goonerism and the Christianity. Now, that's just because I can really only identify them in the discourse so far. So the people that are having their agenda in the discourse get the dotted line, and the ones that are actually in the industry, they get that bold line that comes up again later. These are the agendas we can identify here, whether or not they act in a certain way. So then we compare that to what we got in the Satanic Panic. Sure, what's the difference then? Yeah, okay, we got the time. We got the one is the Satanic Panic. It's done. It's over. It's in the past. It got its name. That's it. It's done. Goonergate is an ongoing thing. It's a much smaller thing, I would say, in terms of it seems like it's not a well-known term yet to normies, whereas a lot of people understand what a Satanic Panic is. The position of the activity of the agenda in these two examples is what really fascinates me. In the Satanic Panic, the agenda was criticizing the finished art product, the art creation. It was criticizing the popularity of the games. It was saying the music is horrible once it's played backwards, and it's making people commit crimes and encouraging witchcraft and all of that. That was the criticism put on top of the art. You had your petitions for banning. You had game called into questions like D&D did that was that the motive for certain murders, all that kind of. That's why it was panic. It was noise, but that was all outside of the industry. So you see, the agenda is outside. In today's scenario, so the Goonergate, at least one agenda is infiltrating and influencing that art creation. I'll say at least that one, at least wokeness. But of course, the allegeds come into the discussion. But the point is, the agenda is coming from inside the house. So maybe they have a point here with this gaming is doomed idea that we were talking about in the noise, right? So let's have a look at that. What are the implications of having this inside the industry? What's the impact? So I've divided the impact into the impact on gaming creators and gaming enjoyers, basically the consumers, like we did in the definitions section. But when we are looking at the impact on game creators, I've divided it even further into different functions: the executives and the devs and designers. The executives, well, the corporates, the only thing that they really care about is selling the art. Whether there is an agenda or not, they get their art product. Okay, they get the game on the outside, and then they get to charge for it, so they're happy, really. Whether it's art or not, it looks the same to them. But if there is an agenda, if we got an executive to think about the agenda, they'd be like, fine, so which agenda makes us the most money? Then we get the activists, the ones that have come in with the agenda. They have infiltrated the industry. They come in, and you know what, the best answer for that would be to look at your analytics, look at your sales, look at all of that stuff. No, but what the activists do is either they take those analytic numbers or they ignore them, and they make sure that all it says is the agenda will sell. That's basically what they've been doing for quite a long time now, convincing the head of the gaming corporations that, you know what, the agenda is what's going to sell, boys. It's really oh, sorry, we can't say boys. The agenda is what will sell. Okay? And then we have the devs and designers, right? So they're a little bit lower, but they're the ones that are creating the art. They're the actual artists, we would say, right? There are, I would say, probably still an existing group of devs and designers that are just artists, and they see game as art, and they just want to do the expression. So they see games as art as defined earlier on in our diagram, where it's a creation and it's an expression and all of that. But they're also influenced by those activists that are in that other part of the diagram. The agenda must still be part of the finished product that they create. So it doesn't matter what their intentions were, what their art was in the beginning. It becomes corrupted and stifled by the agenda. That's why I've got that red over here that shows, you know what, art is stifled by the agenda, that red agenda. Then I've actually made space for another kind of developer and designer that seems to be taking control as well. Those are the activist developers. They don't actually see the games as art. They don't see it as an expression for themselves or whatever. They think games, or actually they see art itself as a vehicle for an agenda. It's the only thing. The only reason to create art is to push a certain agenda. It's to make a certain commentary. It's not just for the sake of art, which is not the definition I've given it. But anyway, we still get agenda stifling art then. We don't get art as I defined it before. So cool, we've established through that the art suffers. So what is the impact of this on gamers? Are we still doomed? Let's just look at the gamers, how gamers work. They are presented with the game market. What can they play? What do they want to play? And then they actually make purchase decisions on what game they're going to go and experience, and then they go and experience it, and they go and discuss what they experienced, creating gaming discourse. So they talk about the character design. Of course, when we had Goonergate, that was the thing that we very much focused on. Part of the gaming discourse there is, I don't like this ugly character design. Less of this. Remember that? That was pre-Goonergate. It's, listen, we don't need perfect characters, but we don't need them to be massive and unrealistically running. We don't need the ugly characters, okay? That's basically what they said. Could we have less of that? That's all the feedback was, really. Just stop this. That feedback was then came into contact with the agenda all over again. The agenda now, not from inside the creation of the art, but in the art discourse, right? We had the woke agenda label saying, "You're bigots!" So remember, that's how we got the bigot army. Everybody's a bigot for not wanting the really overweight samurai. I don't know. That's an example. Then there were people that's now, like we think about in the Goonergate scenario, I like this game that has a tight tushy in it. Yay, nice, nice, nice. More of this. Do that. Okay, well, then we got the woke agenda labeling again. The woke people still went in there and they said, hey, Gooners, look at you. You're so pathetic. That's all you want in games. All you want is bums. All you want is boobs. Okay, that's all you have. So we had the word Gooner, don't worry. That had been used, the pejorative of you're addicted to porn. That's what you are doing with gaming. Then we've got the Christian gamers labeling them Gooners too. And again, remember in our mini map, we had the maybes. Well, those maybe people were saying, look, the tushy shouldn't be the only thing in the game. Can you give us something more interesting? Is the storyline and the mechanics and all of that? All of those things that make up gaming discourse, actually, when you do talk about a game and how a game is doing, you talk about more than just the way it looks. You want to know about the mechanics, what makes it good, what makes it bad. Let's have a chat about that. The bum might look good, but are the mechanics working? So that was gaming discourse. Cool. We've covered that. We've established that the agenda both affects the actual game and it affects the discourse that around a game. But we need to remember this green thing that I put here. Game purchase decisions. That is the saving grace. And that is how and why we have the last section being how art wins against agenda. Gaming is suffering more than before. We've established that in our comparison block down here. We've discussed the little mechanism of how agenda is stifling game creation and how the agenda complicates gaming discourse itself. It makes gamers disagree on how to get what they want from game creators, and it gives us to that infighting. That's all very noisy and can get very annoying and loud, absolutely. But what we need to remember is the saving grace. Because purchase decisions are made by gamers. Companies that rely on agenda and ignore art will lose market share. That's just, it's gonna happen, okay? Maybe it'll take longer, and it has taken longer than I expected. But it will happen because eventually people will do their non-binary and they won't buy. So companies that are too focused on the agenda, they're actually going to start falling behind eventually. They're going to disappear, they're going to run out of funding, or they'll just shrink. But guess what? We still get the agenda losing at the end of that. That's the end result. Green, yay! And then, on the other hand, we're also going to have companies that rely on art rather than the agenda. The ones that are not injecting and shoehorning the message or any message into their game, those ones are going to gain market share and they're going to retain market share because we will choose. Our purchase decisions will make that happen. And guess what? Art still wins. It's just going to take a while. With this mind map, I wasn't looking to direct the discussion. I was just wanting to describe it, define its moving parts, and then, have a look at it through art and agenda, how those things work, and figure out whether we're as doomed as we feel. It's not so bad. Just keep going. And if you do like visualizing opinions, debates, situations, if you like visualizing anything, mind mapping it, hey, consider subscribing for new videos like this where we diagram absolutely anything. Okay, thanks, bye.